We are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel and welcome if you are new. Today, we are talking about how to improve self worth. And my guest is going to be sharing our amazing strategies to help to improve self worth. My name is Adebusola. If you're meeting me for the very first time, I'm Dr. Adebusola Adegbola. I'm a psychiatrist, and on my YouTube channel, I share everything about holistic wellness, nutrition, weight loss, and mental well being because that's what I'm really passionate about. So if you're interested in content like that, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because I post video every Sunday. I also recently co-founded Minds and Beyond with my guests. So we are really excited about that because it's an organization that is focused on helping people improve their mental well-being. We have a webinar that is upcoming on the 1st of May, and I have already included the link to that webinar in the description box below. So just click the link and then you register. It's free webinar. Do not afford to miss that webinar if you are struggling with insomnia or sleep difficulties. We have a sleep expert that will be joining, and it's going to be an amazing time. Well, without further ado, let's get into the conversation of today. Why we are here today? We are here to talk about how to build self worth and how to stop seeking external validation. My guest, Omotola Ajayi, she is the youngest of four girls. She was born at Abeokuta, Nigeria, and she is now a psychiatrist that is dedicated within the NHS. She's a vibrant host of Lifestyle by Amoti, where she shares content about a lifestyle and mental well-being. I've included the link to our channel in the description box below. So please be sure to subscribe to our channel and follow our content. She posts content every Thursday, so you definitely don't want to miss out on that. And after I've said earlier, she's my co-founder. And I'm going to invite her to tell us why this topic is really important to her and take us through a little bit about her journey to building self-worth. Over to you, Amoti.
You so much, Bisola. I feel super honored to be here today, and I would like to specially welcome everyone as well. First of all, I want you to know that you are in the right place. If you can say it to yourself, just say, I'm spending my Sunday evening well, because we're going to be talking about something very important. And the reason is because I've seen that over time, the difference between person A and person B is usually the way they view themselves. And that's why self an important topic. Is something we need to keep talking about. We need to keep reevaluating ourselves on, and we need to keep improving on it. Yes. So, where do I start from? She's already done the introductions. My name is Ajayi. I used to be Ogun, and yes, I'm the last of four born in Abeokuta, Nigeria. I'm very proud of where I was born. Right.
Absolutely.
Yes, I'm a psychiatrist with the NHS, and I have a passion to see people get educated about mental health. And that's why I decided to dedicate a YouTube channel, Lifestyle by Almaty, like my co-founder Busala said. And on that channel, I try as much as possible to destigmatize mental health. And I also see, when I deal with a lot of people, when I see clients, I see that at the core of many of their difficulties, especially when it comes to things like anxiety and depression, it can boil down to self-image, self-worth. So that's
Absolutely.
important. Right. So I will take us back to where it all started from, because
Mhm.
I was having behind the scenes with Busola about how that she always says that I've been this confident person that exude confidence, but I told her that Rome wasn't built in a day, and so
Mhm.
wasn't my self confidence. Yes. So I'll just tell us briefly how my journey has been over time, and then we'll just take it from there. I hope we're ready to hear the story. Story
Absolutely.
Right, thank you. The story is not going to be long-winded, but just imagine a little girl. I was 11 years old, coming from Abeokuta. I had just completed my primary education, and I was lucky to get a scholarship to one of the most elite schools, secondary schools in Nigeria. It was in the city, that's in Abuja city. And I went with a lot of confidence because back home in my small Abeokuta, I was regarded as a local champion in quotes. And then on my first day of English class, I was asked to read a passage which I felt I read to the best of my abilities. I read it confidently. But not long after, I heard giggling in class and I started looking around. It looked like my classmates were laughing at me, only to discover a few moments later that I was mispronouncing some words. So imagine a little girl coming from Abeokuta, feeling herself, and then they're like, no, you don't pronounce it that way. And I was like, okay, this is weird. So that definitely knocked my self confidence. I
Mhm.
started to speak up or to volunteer to read. But luckily, I got friends who were willing to listen to me read every night and they would
Mhm.
correct my grammar and then things improved. So that's where my journey began from. We'll still talk more about how I've been able to build the self confidence afterwards.
Amazing, amazing story. And this is a story that several times, and it's still sorry for me to hear that, but I guess it just begin to show how life experiences can make this thing appear in our lives, and why we do not want to base where we are in the present moment on the past alone. Is also it's good to be able to reflect on that, be able to identify that, and see how that is impacting whatever we are doing or what we are feeling at the moment. So thank you so much for sharing that story. And I know that for people struggling with self worth, self image, or self confidence, it stems from something. If it's not that experience, it could be any other thing. But if you're watching, if you're live, I can see that some people are live already. Why don't you just tell us your name and where you're watching from in the comment section below? Okay. Type your name and where you're watching from in the comment section below, and then I'll ask Somati to explain what self worth is and why it's important to differentiate it from self confidence.
Right. So those two terms can be sometimes mistaken for others, but I would just like to start with self-worth. So self-worth is the ability or the thought or you knowing what you carry. You know what you carry, your value, the value that you place on yourself, the premium that you place on yourself as a person. So that's a sense of self-worth. Like, who am I?
Mhm.
Maybe if you're here today, I want you to, if you've got a pen or even your phone, just write it. Who are you? If you were to think of three words, who are you or what represents you? So for me, I would like to see myself as someone that is excellent, that is passionate, and that is precious before God. That is my self-image. So who are you? So that's self-worth. Self-worth is the premium that you place on yourself, the value that you know that you bring to the table, right? While self confidence is usually based on a particular task or a particular thing or ability to do something. So you might have a very high self worth, but you might not be confident to do something. For example, I'm not confident to drive a truck. Never. I am not confident to drive a truck. I could do it with practice, but I'm not self confident to drive a truck. So
Mhm.
confidence is situation based, while just think of like joy and happiness. Happiness can be, oh, I just ate a lovely meal this evening. I'm happy. But joy is a constant state of the mind. So that's the
Mhm.
same thing with self confidence. I hope we all got that difference.
Yeah, amazing.
Right.
And I think that's just a good way to look at it, looking at it from which one is intrinsic and which one is extrinsic. So self worth is really intrinsic, while self confidence is extrinsic. And something I became aware of recently was somebody's analogy of self worth being, the foundation of a house. And what is in yourself is something that we have, that is our self image, how we see ourselves, but it's also something that we continue to nurture, and no matter how strong it is will determine how we'll be able to weather any storm that comes. For example, you build your house, the foundation you build your house on will determine what it will be able to withstand when we begin to have difficulties. And that differentiates it from self-confidence, which is task specific or event specific, like you rightly said. So that makes a whole lot of sense. So I guess how we can summarize that is that, our self worth does not necessarily change irrespective of what happens or what we are supposed to do or what we need to do or what we got right or what we didn't get right or based on what we have or what we do not have. Now, self
Mhm.
confidence can be based on all of those things, but it's really about how you've said it. And I like the fact that you were able to mention those three amazing values. And I'm sure that, people listening would be able to do that. And I would definitely also be doing mine after this session. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for that perspective. That will lead me into asking, what are the causes of low self-worth? You've mentioned that even in your practice, as you see clients day to day, even in mental health difficulties, there is some element of self-worth, or low self-worth coming forth when we begin to look into why this person is going through this difficulty. What would you say from your experience, personal and professional, are the causes of low self-worth?
Yeah, so I would say that causes of low self-worth, you can think about it in so many ways. But one of the things that I would like to, or a simple way I would like to classify it is, let's think of nature and nurture. So some people, when naturally, even without any external validation or anything, they just exude this confidence. And
Mm,
that's what a lot of people ascribe my confidence to. About it. I think it's a mix of both. But I think that I would like to look at it from childhood up until adulthood, because for every adult, you were once a. So, what were the things that were said to you as a child? So,
mm,
for example, I would say that a lot of people that I've seen that have very good and high self worth, when you look at their family settings, they were extremely validated. Their opinions mattered. They were not shut down when they were speaking. They never had to experience, so adults are speaking, so keep quiet. Your opinion doesn't matter. I've seen that a lot. And I always say that for me, I never really understood the whole concept of men being or having more say than women. Because in my household, men and women, or a man and all the women in the house have a say. There is not, I can literally say anything when it comes to an argument with my father, and I'm not going to be shut down or
mm,
to be shut up here. So the point is that the way adults in your life have treated you is very important. So that's for children. For if when you see a confident child, it's very possible that they were validated by their loved ones, their parents, or their teachers.
mm,
That's another important part. And then sometimes it could then be life experiences that would shape us. Remember the example that I gave about when I was in secondary school. So I got there as a very confident child, but something happened and then I became laughing the laughing stock of the class. And that could have it could have easily marred my sense of self-worth and all that. So it could be the parenting, what the adults in your life have said, including teachers.
mm,
It could also be friends. It could be friends. Your friends might just say something. They could sometimes bully you, and then it just masks that. It just distorts a lot of things. So those are some of the things, and obviously other experiences, maybe loss, being in a toxic relationship. So many things can affect even people that were you would think were confident, when they come
mm,
into certain, you just knock them off. It
mm,
could knock them. So there are so many things, but that's just a few of the things that I've decided to share today.
mm. Amazing. I think looking at it from that perspective of nature and nurture really makes a lot of sense. And then you've covered it in a timeline perspective, right from childhood to life experiences. And of course, what we experience in life will definitely differ from one person to the other. And it's also important to know that for some people, they may not necessarily be able to identify that, oh, this is the cause, or this is what happened, this is why I'm like this is why I feel this way. Sometimes it's just so difficult to be able to say, this is the reason. Some people were brought up in a very loving and open home where they are validated all the time, like you described. But somehow, in their adult life, they begin to struggle with, self-worth. It could also be because of the result of all the things that we're exposing ourselves to, societal expectations. You're supposed to be here at this time of your life. You're supposed to be doing this at this time of your life. And because you're not at that level, it begins to affect yourself. But despite having an amazing childhood and, no significant loss or trauma, it could also be social media expectations that we put on ourselves, and we begin to compare ourselves with people all around, forgetting that social media is really highlights real of what is happening in somebody's life and not the day-to-day happenings of what's going on in their lives. I've seen that that could be what is affecting some of our own self-worth too. Also not really having realistic expectations about our lives. While I was, celebrating Priscilla's wedding, the African wedding of the year, and it's been so joyful, so amazing to watch. But I also know that it's going to be knocking down a lot of people's self-worth. And it's going to affect some people. Why it's really something that a lot of people are happy about. We're happy to celebrate them, and something to look forward to. We watch the videos over and over again, but it's something that is impacting some other people's mental health because they are comparing their lifestyle or what it is that they expect to have with what is happening in other people's life. And I hope that by the end of today, anybody that has felt that way or is expecting something so joyous, something so glorious, something so amazing, would be able to shape their mindset and focus on the amazing things that are in their own lives at the moment. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you want to jump in and add to
No,
that?
it's nice that you've talked about something topical because many kind of shy away from it and say, no, I'm just on social media, I'm not affected. It's not true. Sometimes, even though I've got the self-worth, sometimes I'll just someone that is 28 doing things and I'm like, what's going on here? So
Yeah.
there is wanting to compare ourselves with other people. It's a natural instinct, it's not abnormal,
Mhm.
but it's of self-worth keeps taking you back to the table. Like, this is who you are. You're not going to compare your journey with another person's journey. Your journey is unique and you have to stay on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, amazing. I think that's just so crucial, and it's important for us to drive that home because and that's just one aspect of culture and society. Is it the 30 under 30 list of successful people? And then you're like, Jesus Christ, I'm 40-year-old. What have I achieved with my life? What am I doing? Where am I? What's my purpose and all of that? And it can really show up in different aspects of our lives. But because we are mental health professionals, we just have to dive deeper into how low self-worth can really impact somebody's mental health and even their life experiences, and prevent them from really maximizing opportunities, really living their life to the fullest, because that's really why we are here today. It's impacting a lot of people, and it's such a conversation that you cannot have even if you have a bestie that you're saying that, oh, I think there's some difficulty with self worth. That's not a conversation that you can have with anybody. So we have the floor to really have some honest conversation here today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Increasingly, I feel very elated that we're talking about this particular thing because that's just like you shared. It's a very sensitive topic, and it's not just everyone that is finds it convenient to say, okay, please, I've noticed that I have low self-worth. In fact, most times you might not really even know. It's just going to invest in little things.
Mhm.
And touch on some of the ways that one could identify that there's something wrong with one's self-worth. So it could come up as always saying yes,
Mm.
never saying no, not wanting to step on toes, not going out of your way. I mean, you should go out of your way to help people, but when it's impacting on your own well-being, then that's wrong because we're supposed to love other people just as much as we love ourselves, not necessarily more than we love ourselves. So our inability to say no, if you're able to keep boundaries, someone is calling you at 11 p.m. your sleep time, and then you're picking it for what? For their own emergency. I mean, you should be a good friend, but at the same time, you need to set boundaries. I remember when I was still in Nigeria, I had, and then I had to give some patients my numbers. There was someone calling me at 2 a.m. I was like, am I with your kidney? I don't know why I picked the call, but I was furious. So being able to set boundaries, saying no, those are some of the things, and also taking care of yourself and what comes into you. Just some examples. Now, let's go back to the question. The question is what remind me of the question rather.
The impact of low self-worth on our mental health and life experiences.
Yeah, so I think that one of the when you when you first invited me for this session, just like I said in the introduction, I just figured that in life, it's just a thin line between someone that is living their life to the fullest maximum or to the maximum potential and someone that is just living life just there and not really impacting anybody or even themselves or their immediate environment. So it could show up as losing opportunities. Let's start from work.
Mm,
Losing at work, you know this thing, this is your area of expertise, but because of low self-worth, because you have the imposter syndrome, oh no, no, I don't deserve it. And I've noticed that this is very particular with females. Males take up the task,
mm,
they take up
sure.
glory. By the time they present what they do to you, you're like, I thought it was just this simple thing. They'll package it, but our inability to package ourselves, to sell ourselves, that's one thing. It could impact that. So obviously, if people are getting promotions, it could impact on you because you're not putting yourself all out there. You're not confident. At meetings, are you speaking up or are you saying my opinion doesn't matter? Your
Mm,
opinion matters. No matter how silly it might sound, your opinion matters. Speak up at meetings. Now, even in personal relationships, imagine someone that has low self worth, they would project that feeling to other people.
sure.
So, for example, they call their friend, or you call your friend, and your friend doesn't pick the call. And then immediately you're like, oh, they don't like me. Little things like that. And then you start having clashes with different people. So, there's so many ways that it can show up in our interpersonal relationship, our relationship with ourselves. What are you saying to yourself? What words do you say? Do you beat up yourself when you go through a particular failure or loss? What do you think to yourself? Those are very important things. You need to, there's something that Joyce Meyer is the love of my life. She's a preacher anyway. And she keeps saying, think about what you're thinking about. Like actively think about your thoughts. So what are your thoughts towards yourself? Do you
Mm-hmm.
beat up your right? Do you blame yourself for failure? I mean, failures are part of life. Now let's cone it down to mental health. It can show so many ways. Now, there's nobody here that will say they've never doubted themselves or never compared themselves or never beat up themselves for failing at something. But how long do you ruminate on those things?
Mm,
So when you begin to ruminate on those negative thoughts over and over again, it can show up as depression.
mm,
Yes, I'm not going to be defining what depression is, but it can show up as depression, anxiety. In fact, it can even, if it's over, it can even be like post-traumatic stress disorder, It can show up in so many ways. And for people that have a lot of negative thoughts towards themselves, that have this anger that they just keep absorbing into themselves, they have a doing
mm,
the inevitable. I don't want to trigger anything. So it can come up in so many ways, and we can even translate it to our children. So,
true.
Bisola, that one of the reasons why I know that having a high self-worth, high confidence is from nature. Because my mom is very confident or was
Mm,
very confident. And there's no way, you know how they'll say a lion cannot give birth to a goat.
yeah.
There's no way. You just have to be confident, just saying that. Yeah. So I think those are some of the ways that it shows up. Obviously, I'm sure you have a few others to
Yeah,
add.
yeah, I think you've pretty much covered how it really shows up. I think what I can just add to that is really relationships and things that we accept, things that we settle for, because we feel that we're not enough or we're not deserving of that, and it really impacts a lot of people's relationship. We're unable to keep friends, even romantic relationships, and how we displace these experiences on other people around us. I think you've pretty much shared other things in terms of our life experiences, the things that we get to enjoy that we deprive ourselves of because of low self-worth, and in terms of how we deprive ourselves of opportunities in our careers. I think we should move into how we can improve self-worth. We've highlighted some things. We've said that we are going to share 5 ways by which people can improve their self-worth. And the first one is, how do somebody with a low self-worth, so you're seeing somebody, this person clearly has low self-worth, impacting their life significantly, how do they begin to reconnect with who they are, because we've already said that is intrinsic, and begin to build their self-worth?
Yeah, that's really important because for me, I always say that when we identify a problem, then we can begin to work towards the solution. So I would say that the very first thing is being able to look into oneself and identify that, yes, Omotola, you have a problem when it comes to this, and this is where you are at your self-worth. So I'd like to ask everybody now, just a little exercise. If you were to rate your self-worth from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest ever and 10 being the highest, where would you roughly place yourself? Remember that nobody is watching, so it's important that we're honest with ourselves. At least that's one thing that we owe ourselves, honesty. We can be honest with ourselves. Yeah. So that's the first step. So if you realize that I've got low self-worth, then you need to start thinking of things to do. I'm going to share a few examples. The first thing is, for me, I would say turn the narrative around.
Mm,
Remember the things that I said was, what are the things that you say to yourself when nobody is there? What do you say to yourself? Okay, you've missed something important, let's say an important date, or you've failed an exam. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
mm,
Oh, that's how you keep blowing things up. You're just a failure. So for me, I would immediately write those negative things down. And even if you don't know the positive, just open a dictionary and find the opposite of that. So instead of saying that you're a failure, you say, I have failed at so and so thing, but it doesn't mean that I'm a failure. I am a success. I'm still a success. Because if you really look at it, the success will obviously outweigh the failures. So you're not that, your person, your identity is not embedded in the outcomes of your life. We need to know that your identity is not embedded in the outcomes of your life. The outcomes will always be outcomes. Remember Thomas Edison? I know we've heard this example a billion times, but it keeps blowing my mind that someone could try something 10,000 times and then finally succeed. And everyone, without him, without his invention, will still be in total darkness till
mm,
today. But he kept trying because those failures, those 10,000 failures, did not define him.
mm,
So change the narrative around. That's one thing. Also, remember that I said that there are some people that are yes people. You always say yes to people at your own detriment. Who can do this? I'll do it. Even when you don't have the capacity to, and then you start complaining and grumbling, you're not putting yourself first. You're putting other people's needs above your own. You're
mm.
going above beyond for people, something you cannot do. So you need to start setting boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to have a meeting with yourself. Because like, I was telling you that I had a meet, I had a self retreat, and
Mm-hmm.
I wrote goals and analyzed it. So you need to
Yeah.
do that. You need me time, protected time for yourself because you are important.
Mm,
So you need to say, I'm not, if it can be little things like, I'm not going to be on social media from so time to so time because I need my mental space. Just things like that. So setting boundaries. Now, I think that, I don't know if you want to come in because I have other things that I also want to share. But one other thing that I'm going to share before I come back is, that's the third point, is that your stuff. Yes. Invest in yourself like you're the greatest investment ever. Wherever you are you a career person? Are you a professional? Whatever you do, know your stuff so that when it is time to showcase whatever you have, you ask a question, you can always give an answer. It's not, you're not saying looking down, counting. No, you're confident. You know, when you know something, when you know, and
mm-hmm.
everybody knows to go for. You need to know your thing. So whatever you're doing, you're at work, make sure you're an excellent person at work. You arrive early at work, you contribute to meetings. If they ask you to read a material, read it before the meeting. It boosts your confidence, know what you're talking about. You understand?
Mm. Yeah.
I hope.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just going to summarize all the things that you've mentioned. So you've started from, what is your own identity, knowing yourself. Then how do you begin to nurture that identity by creating time for yourself and investing in yourself, whatever it is that, you want to add to yourself, surrounding yourself with positive things. And, if you definitely have someone that has negative thought, how do you counter that negative thought? What do you surround yourself with? What are the things that you feed your mind? What are the things that you feed your eyes? Those are some of the inventory that and the questions that we need to be answering when we're having that meeting with ourselves. Because if we're able to identify that, then we'll be able to replace all of those low self-worth with improved self-worth. In terms of career, you've talked about personal and professional development, learning more about your area of expertise. And the more you know, the more your self-worth improves. And there's really no crime if you have improved self-worth in saying, I don't know the answer to that, I'm going to research and get back to you. So the ability thought that, oh, I don't know that, and so I must be the worst person on the planet, still boils down to the self-worth. So failing an exam, okay, what went wrong with that exam? What can I do to improve, rather than seeing yourself as a failure? So the first thing is really starting from that identity and then moving down from that. And we can only begin to build that identity by, what we are feeding ourselves. And really start slow. Start slow.
Mm,
We are talking about a lot of things here. This is something that takes years to improve, not a day, not
exactly.
weeks. It takes years. So it's really to start slow and start building from there. I work with a lot of people. I coach a lot of people. People come to me and they say they want to lose weight. And I say, really, just continue eating what you're eating and increase your water intake. If you're somebody you don't drink water, or drink water before you eat and then drink water immediately after. Those are practical ways rather than saying, oh, you have to overhaul your lifestyle on day one. And that's why a lot of people do not succeed on these things that we talk about, because you just want to make a lifestyle overhaul one day. And it's really difficult, because even for people who says they have self-worth, it's something that they are building and they are working on. I was listening to a podcast, I think it's Jamie Lee McKen, and then she said she met Oprah at an event, and then Oprah gave her a card. And
Okay.
and this is somebody that has, a seven-figure business in dollars. And she met Oprah. Oprah gave her a card, and she struggled to really reach out. And she had a business manager, business negotiation. She wanted to have conversations with Oprah, but even at that level, she was still struggling with self-worth. That, no, I'm not in Oprah's level. Oprah, stay in your lane. Let me stay in my lane. So it's really something that even people who are doing well are
Yeah.
building day after day. It's not like, oh, I've done this, now I have arrived. I have the best self worth. Even the people with great self confidence and great self worth, they get knocked down by one event or the other. So this is something that is definitely going to be a lifestyle change, something that it has to be part of, your goals, your vision board, if you're somebody that is into that, or something that you definitely have to review regularly. So I'll let you
Yeah.
jump in back with some of the other tips that you have to share.
Yes, thank you. That was a very good summary. And again, as I said, I don't know if I said it when we started, I'm also learning a lot from you as always. Now, the other thing that I really wanted to share was the importance of having a community. As women, we hear a lot of things. So, okay, this is not just for women, but for women, especially for women, you hear things like, oh, women group up, this or that. But having a community is very important. And why is it important? Is because it's likely that if I see Busola, for example, doing something positive, I know that we are peers in terms of age, in terms of career. I can be spurred on to be better, to be more, not out of comparison or jealousy, but because I know that if Sola is able to do it, she can motivate me. She can be a positive influence over me. So having that community doesn't even have to be a lot of people. It could just be you've identified one, two, three persons in your life. It could be your career. It could be maybe your place of worship or your community, or you go to the park, you meet someone and you see that they exude a lot of confidence and positivity. Glean from them. A tree, this is one of my favorite quotes, a tree doesn't make a forest. You can't do it alone. And that's why there's so many human beings in the world. So tapping from resources. Now, Bisola mentioned that she was listening to a podcast. We can learn from podcasts. There are so many resources on YouTube. In fact, I was telling Bisola that when I go jogging, I just listen to podcasts and fill myself with lots of information, world views, reading books. That can be a form of community, but also having that physical community. So for me, I belong to the Shenwa Kinoto Network community, and we meet every Monday. No matter how tired we are, we meet every Monday. And one of the things that our coach does is that she ensures that everyone switches on their camera. Now, it's like something difficult. I felt initially, I was like, this person is just being insufferable. But at the end of the day, I realized that to show up consistently, putting something in me. Being able to turn on my camera in a group of over 20 women from different parts of the world and different age groups was building something in me. So when I started to show up, so like I shared this with you. So when I showed up at a meeting, it was a meeting for doctors from all over the world. And they asked a question, I was able to answer it such that they even gave me a prize at the after. I realized that some 3 years ago, I would never have been able to do that. I would have been hidden in the shadows. I would have just
Yeah.
been, oh, let every other person say, oh, they've said my mind, I'm not going to speak. So just like she said, we need to build gradually. I mean, it has to be a decision that we make for ourselves. So building in a community is easier than doing it alone. So that's one thing. And the final thing that I'll be sharing is something that I personally struggled for a long time. I struggled with it for a long time is getting someone to coach you or to mentor you. There are different ways we can have our experiences in life. We can have it through personal experience or experiences of other people. But it's easier to glean from other people's experiences so that we don't make the same mistakes over and over again. And that's one thing that is lacking. It's improving compared to previous generations, but in this generation, we sometimes feel like we know it all. Or social media gives us that delusion. Oh no, I know it all. Especially our Gen Z brethren. Yeah, everything. I can ask Chat GPT, but having a real life person, like for me, I have different kinds of coaches on different levels. I have Shewa Kiloto, she's my personal life coach. And I also have Joyce Meyer, who I listen to every day. She helps me navigate life, although she hasn't met me. So there's that importance of having someone just, talk you through things. You listen to their own experiences, and then you can build your own self worth from there.
Yeah. I think you've really said so many things. So we are starting from you as a person. What's your identity? How do you see yourself? What do you feed yourself? And in terms of our personal lives, personal development, professional development, and some of the things that you've talked about in terms of community. While some of us we have so many people that we look up to, and we wish that, oh, I wish this person can be my mentor. I wish I can be in this person's community, but there are easier ways of doing it right now, especially if you cannot afford it. Do you have access to that person's book? Usually, everybody has a low offer. You can start with a person's book. Does this person have, a podcast, a YouTube channel? Or what is it that these people, what do they offer that you can listen to even without having one to one? And it's really in the doing, because what the one to one offers you is taking action, because they're after you in taking action. They give you, you have workbooks, you have reports that you need to submit, and you cannot go to these meetings and go and be giving excuses. And something happened to my baby, I was overwhelmed at work. That's what makes the one-on-one community impactful. But if you can discipline yourself to take action on some of the things that they are even sharing for free, you begin to see massive shifts in your life. Begin to see significant improvement even with the small things that you get. And if you need somebody to hold you accountable, who is that friend that is in your life that you can have a group together, you can meet once a month, once in 2 weeks. I think once a week if you're just starting, because it helps to build momentum. It helps you to have the right things in place with that friend that you can meet with once a week. You have your assignment, and then you show up with no story, I have that person in my own life. You have different levels of mentorship. Some you may be able to afford and pay to be in paid communities for mentorship. Sometimes you may not be able to afford that depending on where you are in your life at the moment. But there are free ways of maximizing these opportunities. And then when you're able to afford more, then you can afford it and it just skyrockets you and move you from where you are to where you really want to be. But I don't want anybody to leave here feeling like, if they cannot afford to be in a $10,000 mastermind, they cannot be in the right community. They cannot improve their self worth. They cannot improve their opportunity. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Yeah, there are so many ways by which we can start maximizing with what is available to you, what is at your fingertips. Who is that, boss that you have that encourages you? And sometimes we even have these people who want to mentor us free of charge, but because they asked us to do this, then we didn't get around to doing it. They gave us
Mhm.
another, invited us for another opportunity, but somehow we're unable to meet up to that opportunity. They just got tired. And you'll be all right. And in their mind, they're like, you'll be all right. So how do you even maximize the free opportunities around you if you cannot afford to pay for a paid opportunity? Because it really helps to
Mhm.
build self-worth from the inside, and you definitely do not have to do the fake it till you make it, or this cliche of trying to pretend to have self-confidence without doing the work, because that will only last for a short period of time. Remember that we've said that this is a journey that you're starting, and you do really need to invest in yourself. And the more you invest in yourself, the more you see that these things just begin to build up naturally.
Yeah.
See, one of the things that happens with people who struggle with low self worth is people pleasing. And you talked about, not knowing how to say no. And one of the reasons why, we please people is the other coin of, having a low self worth is really trying to seek validation, validation from other people, and holding other people's opinion more than our own opinion, our own personal opinion. How do you think that people can let go of people pleasing?
Yeah, that's a good one. And I'm just going to share that sometimes other people's opinions are not necessarily bad, but they might not be good for us. And they might have good intentions towards us. I i'm careful to share a story, but the story is more like there was something that I wanted to wear for an occasion, and I already knew how it was going to come out. I liked it, I was comfortable with it, but someone that loved me said it was rubbish and that it wasn't good enough. If at that moment I felt as though, oh, this person loves me, this person wants the best for me, and I didn't stick to my decision, I would have regretted it, because at the
Uh-huh.
end of the day, this this actually came out good. This was good. Now that's a good person. So that's by the way. Now, how to navigate not being a people person? Again, it starts from the inside. The premium that you place on yourself, very important, and the boundaries that you also set are very important. I'm just going to give you a simple example. So for me, I've said that I'm going to be sleeping at 10 p.m. on most days. By 10 I would be asleep on most days. So I'm not going to leave my phone on for it to be ringing. So if somebody calls me or sends me a message and then I'm responding at 11, and then that makes me wake up late. So those are little things, just little adjustments, physical adjustments that you can make. Another thing is say no. Just it's in the doing. Just say no. No, not because you're being mean, but no because you do not have the capacity, and you does not have to carry an excuse.
Mm.
So recently, a communications person, someone that is an expert in communication, and he was like, somebody sends you a mail, you can't do something, and then you're like, oh, I would have really loved to attend your party, I would have really loved it, I'm sure it would be nice, however I'm not able to attend because my grandmother's father's dog died. No, just say no. No, I would not be able to. I don't have the time at this particular moment. However, I look forward to attending some other time. Full stop. And if it's someone that you don't want to hang out with, say no. Like you should be known for being the person of your words. That's just it. Just say no. I know it's hard, especially for someone that has always said yes.
Mm.
I, I attended a conference recently, and the president of the Royal College of Psychiatry said that she had an experience where she was really pressed for time to submit something, deadline, blah, blah, blah. And someone came to meet her, a manager said, "Oh, can you please do this work?" And she's like, "No, I can't do it." But they were like, "Oh, please, please, there's no other person." She's like, "Oh, have you asked this person and this person?" And they said, "Okay, we'll go and ask them." Then she said, "Oh, if after an hour you've not found anybody, then you can come back." So after an hour, they came back and they were like, "There's no one to do it." And then she agreed. She walked and slaved herself. And then later she then said, "Oh, what did this person say when you asked them?" They're like, "Oh, no, we didn't bother asking them because they would say no." Yes. So yeah, they're like, "We didn't bother asking them because we know you will still say yes." And they so it's the way you have presented yourself. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, if you have the capacity, you can say yes. But trust me, other things, it's the priorities that you place in your life. You need to have your first priorities yourself, your family, and then other people. So being just say, start it. It's going to hurt people. But just say no, I am not able to do this at this time. But if you are genuinely able to do it, do it. But if it's going to impact on yourself, your mental health, or whatever, just say no.
Yeah. That's one of the key ways to begin to set healthy boundaries. And if you and also one thing that I've realized is that a lot of us do not schedule. We feel that it is hard work, and because we do not schedule the things that we do, we don't see how much time we do not have to offer to a lot of things, and we get so overwhelmed. And usually we are really overwhelmed that it's the people in our lives personally that bear the brunt of all our complaints. You've said yes to everybody. You said yes at work. You said yes to friends for social gathering. You said yes for spiritual responsibilities. You said yes for so many things. And then it's because you don't even know your schedule. That's why the work really has to start with who you are. And
Mhm.
because you don't know what you're doing, you don't know your availability, you're struggling to say no. But if you have your own schedule, it's just easier to just say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I do not have the capacity, I'm not available." You don't even need to be apologetic about it. No is no. And when you begin to set that healthy boundaries, it begins with what we said by, starting with a small goal. And how you know that you're not going to lose relationships because you're saying no to, an event or an activity. If you lose a relationship because of that, then that relationship is not really worth having in the first place. So, um, you're not going to lose that because you're setting healthy boundaries, but because we think in the sense of loss or what people are going to say or what's going to happen, we really run ourselves down, and it affects us as individuals. It affects what we're able to achieve and what we are able to do with our lives. I'm just going to go into the comment because I see a lot of people in the comments making comments. I will just read out a few comments from my phone. um Omolola, thank you for joining. Deborah, thank you for joining. Abiola, thank you for joining. Maria, thanks for joining. Love it. A lot of people are making comment that I think the Lovest comment is about societal expectation, or is it mentorship for women? And Titilayo rated self-worth to be 9. That is amazing. And she said that it resonates with the book that she's reading at the moment. Yes, I'm definitely going to ask Amati for book recommendations. And Titilayo also talked about maintaining self-worth is a lifestyle. Absolutely. Shewa Kiloton is here. Thank you for joining. She commented about, community testimony. Lovett said that God will give me the grace to learn how to say no. So I need you to give yourself the task of saying no to one thing this week. Just say no to one thing this week. It doesn't require any grace, any prayer. What is that one thing that you can say no to this week? And say no, and nothing is going to happen. You feel good about yourself and you can start saying no, moving on. No, I'm so sorry. I do not have the capacity to do that. It's simple. Shewan Kiloton said, say no diplomatically. And Titilayo said that, um, wow, talk about a curriculum or something. I didn't say that. Thank Thank you, everybody, for your amazing comment. I think we'll begin to, wrap up now, and I'm going to ask Omoti to share book recommendation if she has any. I have two that I've shared in the comment section below, and if you have book recommendations, why don't you share it with us?
Right. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say a quick shout out to my show, Working Lots on Network Elite. I heard a lot of their names in the comments. Nice to have everyone here. And to my life coach and mentor, I celebrate you joining. Shewaki, shout out to you. Right. So for my book recommendations, I'll start with what I've read this year. One of the first books that I read this year was by Joyce Meyer, Battlefield of the Mind. And trust me, even though Joyce Meyer is a pastor, she's a preacher, she has a Christian background, but that book is transformational. Check the reviews online. It's not just Christians that review it because she talks about who inherently, like your self-worth, your sense of self-worth. And I think it's one book that if you're here on this call today, you should be reading that book. It's going to transform your life, the way you view your sense of self. Even if you have, Titi Laya says that she has 9/10, it's going to transform it to 10/10 because she's that good. And the reason why that book it holds dearly to my heart is because Joyce Meyer came from one of the most deprived cities in terms of social connections. She was at make what good in any way, she would be the person. But because she was able to work on herself, on her mind, and what she feeds herself, and who she was in God, then she became a very good someone to look up to. And obviously, she's my online mentor, as I always say. So that's one book to be reading: Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer. It's available on Amazon. This is an unpaid ad, but it's a really good book that helps you shape in what you think about yourself and what God says that you are. Another one is what we're reading recently. It's one thing that we're reading in the community. It's called Daring Greatly by Bernie Brown. It's also on Amazon. And the reason why I particularly like this book, apart from the fact that I'm reading it now, is because it talks about the things that we don't talk about, things like shame, vulnerability, and how they shape in us and how they sometimes hinder us from achieving what we ought to achieve. So when you see that I'm not the only one struggling with this thing. I'm not the only one struggling with shame, with being vulnerable, with feeling low self-esteem, then it helps you to know that, okay, there are things that I can do to improve. So those would be two book recommendations that just come off the top of my head. And again, I would say read as much as possible. Like read, 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 read. If you need book recommendations, you can send me an email by omsi@gmail.com. You can send an email. We can send you loads of resources just to read. Just keep reading. Keep reading. Knowledge is power. Keep reading.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Amati.
Over
I'll
to you.
definitely put the link to the books in the description box so that anybody who wants to get the book can make a purchase on Amazon. Thank you for the recommendations, amazing recommendations. I think the only two that I will add to that is Wash Your Face by Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis. She talked about 20 lies that we told ourselves and how she was able to walk and overcome those lies. Practical examples, practical strategies. So if you're a lover of Joyce Meyer, who is always practical in examples, nothing highfalutin, you will definitely love that. And if you're psychologically minded, especially if you're being held back by, the past and traumas and how your life experiences may be shaping this, and you're open to having some unpopular opinions about how the past should be left in the past and now focusing on the present and the future, then you can definitely read The Courage to be Disliked. Another amazing book. Thank you so much for joining Omoti. I'm gonna leave the link to Omoti's YouTube channel in the description box so that you can follow her for more gems about lifestyle, mental wellness and well-being. And like she said, she will leave her email, and I would add that to the description box if you want to be in touch with her for anything. Thank you so much, Aboti, for being here today. Thank you everyone for joining and for your amazing comment. We're gonna wrap up here now. It's been so amazing. And if you have any difficulty with sleep, definitely join us on the 1st of May. The link to join is already in this description box. Click on the link to register, and we'll see you on the 1st of May with our sleep expert. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.